Well, anyway, you do know we always enjoy starting with the papers, and that's what we're going to do right here on our Viewpoint on Atlantic TV. Well, anyway, for reviews on the dailies today, we have 5 papers. We have the Punch, the Vanguard, the Guardian, as much as Nigerian Tribune, and the Daily Sun. Well, I'd like to start with the Punch as usual, and let's see what the Punch has. It's a major one. Why we tracked arrested kidnappers' families, and this is according to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We're still talking about the Oyo adoption, riders to follow. Abductors wanted us to release their detained members, pay ransom, says President. We were prepared to finish with terrorist families and militants from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger fueling Nigerians' insecurity. And this is according to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But let's see if we take some other leading stories still on the front page of the Punch. Why Army probes leaked DSS memo warning of Adamawa Bruno attack. You saw a screamer on page 7. Osun 2026, Adeleke Oyebamiji signed peace pact as INEC warns troublemakers. And you can get more of that peace pact on page 16 of the Punch. First subsidy savings report coming soon, says Oyedele on page 24. Drug trafficking in Africa jumps 6-fold in 6 years, according to Africom on page 20. And well, anyway, the picture of the day is that of the federal government as they launch a grassroots LPG drive in Bayelsa State. And you can see some critical stakeholders yesterday in Yanegua. Well, that's the much we can take from the Punch. Let's quickly run to the Guardian as we try to look at more as it concerns the dailies this morning. On the Guardian, high cost of hepatitis care, stress facilities exposed 20 million to liver damage, and it's a screamer and quite disturbing one on page 6. Ruwa accuses reps panel of prejudging PFIPC probe, and it's a major one on page 3. Oyedele explains how Nigerians spend forex and subsidy removal savings, and you can save more time on that on page 3. Senate expand oil sector probe to agency firms over NITI's audit finding is also a major one. You can read up on page 3. Let's see if we take another one. Contract fund most prevalent corruption in public sector, says the FCC boss on page 5. Fresh claims and counterclaims overshadow Osun peace accord ahead of polls is also a screamer on page 6. Federal government ends dirty fuel, says no petrol above 50 ppm in Nigeria. And you can get why they said so on page 5. Federal government adopts household mapping to tackle 15 million out-of-school children. It's also a cheering one on page 5. Banks flag 13,117 BVNs for fraud as customers' credit falls to 3.8 trillion naira. And business page 18 has that story. But the picture of the day, just like that of that on the Punch, is the federal government as they launch the LPG household use. That was done in Yanegua just yesterday. Well, that's the much we can take from the Guardian. Let's quickly run to the Daily Sun to see if we have a major one also. Quite a different story from the others. INEC reject military deployment for elections, says Constitution makes police lead agency in poll security. And you can secure more of that story up on page 6. Let's see if it takes on that leading one, still with the Daily Sun. 2027, Abian slams 200 million and 150 million signage fee on presidential and governorship candidates as a PDP kicks, and you can kick off reading that story on page 29. State police, there will be safeguards to prevent abuse, according to Tinubu. Denies deals with terrorists for relief or adoptees. Makinde probes adoption. And you can get all of those 2 major stories on page 5 and 6 of the Daily Sun. Otedala acquires over 222 billion naira shares in first hold company, now holds about 26.01% of the shares. And page 25 have that. It now looks as if he is the leading shareholder as it concerns First Bank Holdings. Insurance phase license laws as NECOM recapitalization deadline expires today. Regulator rules out extension on recapitalized firms, and you can get that on page 2. 2026 budget article tackles Tinubu over 15.13 billion naira vote for SUVs. It's also that on page 27. Also on page 27, APC crisis in Niger worsens as 5 senatorial aspirants reject Governor Bago's reconciliation move. We are not aware of any court case, according to party. The picture of the day for me will be that of the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Cardoso, Director General World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and the founding director and chief executive Emerging Market Forum, Harida Pool, at the 7th Africa Emerging Markets Forum in Abuja, and that only happened yesterday. Well, that's the much we take from the Daily Sun. Let's quickly run to the Nigerian Tribune and see if the Tribune has a different one. Why? Or quite more like the Punch. Why we refuse to negotiate with Urire terrorists, according to Tinubu, they committed murder and were ready to finish with their families. Nobody's borrowing money to pay salaries now. Pensioners are receiving their pay, and they, governors, should do more to, instead of building flyovers where there is no numerical traffic, build roads and artillery networks to really enhance the quality of life and accessibility of security agencies to penetrate those areas. All of this is according to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Let's see if we take some other leading one. But I'll tell you to read that story up on page 2. Anxieties. INEC set to publish particulars of presidential National Assembly candidates tomorrow. Whoa, let's finally see. On page 5. 746 million euros loan. Federal government begins payment of counterpart funding for Apapa Tinkan port. Our target 48-month completion date is on page 7. Oyo government sets up judicial commission to probe students' adoption is also a screamer on page 12. But let's see if we take some other leading stories still. Only 1,200 medical doctors serving 9 million residents in Ogun. And this, according to the Nigerian Medical Association, raises alarm on page 3. Zakibio killings. LPDC suspend Gazama over federal government 8 billion naira settlement. Allegations are unfounded, he says on page 12. Oshun 2026, political parties still called for peaceful polls. Adeleke alleges police bias, wants peace committee to intervene. Queries why arrested accord members are detained in Abuja and Nasarawa. Oshun APC wants arrested political thugs prosecuted without exemption. And Oni sues for peace, says power belongs to people who let the ballot box alone decide. INEC tells politicians, and police release Oshun SSG. But I'll tell you to get more of all of that story up on page 4. Let's take that also. Health. Smart ring uses sweat to measure glucose, according to a study on page 11. But the picture of the day is that of the visit of some major delegates all the way from Oyo State, and they visited President Bola Ahmed Tinubu just yesterday in Abuja, the presidential villa in Abuja. Well, that's the much you can take from no other but the Nigerian Tribune. Let's quickly go to the last paper for review, and that will be Vanguard. And on the Vanguard this morning, the lead story reads, federal government labor clashes over use of fuel subsidy removal savings. Riders to follow. Savings used to service increased worker salary. Another says Oyedele, you are economical with the truth, Labour tells federal government, and dares finance minister to produce evidence of salary claim. And you can get more of that claim on page 5. Otedola acquires additional 222 billion naira first hold company shares, now controls about 26% on page 14. Orire, why we refuse to negotiate with terrorists, according to Tinubu. Makinde set up pro panel on page 8 and 12. Nigeria and other African countries face 6-fold security threat in 2 years, according to the United States AFRICOM on page 9. And the others to follow, still on the front page of the Vanguard. Nigerian silent sanitation emergency, menace of open defecation is on page 18. I wonder, do they still do that in Nigeria at the moment? Well, anyway, just get page 19 and you get more of that gist. Nigeria Mon ex-finance minister Bakar Alhaji on page 6. Landing on Delta Road, aircraft crew still in DSS detention, says Kiyamo on page 32. Unmet demands, resident doctors begin strike August the 10th, is a major one on page 9. Or sure elections will not bow to intimidation, says Adeleke on page 10. Let's see if we take Mr. and Mrs. Always interesting to do so. And Mrs., wow, she's looking interestingly beautiful this morning with a gown and a wig. Babe, relax. After this case, we'll spend quality time together. The man has been served with a bench warrant. And Mr. has to follow. It had better be, otherwise I won't hesitate to serve you with a bed warrant. Well, anyway, Oga has his right. But the picture of the day is the federal government launches grassroots LPG drive in Bayelsa. I can see critical stakeholders right there, all in smiles, as that was done in Yanigua just yesterday. Well, that's the much you can take from all the papers put together. I will always implore you that if you find any truly interesting, why not do yourself that good of actually reading and getting more juicy gist as it concerns all that seems to transpire on the front page of the dailies. But we'll tell you to remain with us, because definitely, our viewpoint is still on, and the dialogue will take center stage next, right here on Viewpoint on Atlantic TV.